Hey everyone, I believe that we are live.
All right, fantastic. All right, Katie, you ready to start this thing?
I am ready as I'll ever be.
Okay. Hey, everybody, thanks for joining us for another edition of the Church Communications Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Daryl Girardi, and with me, as always, is my co-host, the one, the only, Mrs. Katie Allred. Miss Katie Allred. I called you Mrs. Katie Allred. Sorry.
Well, who knows? Maybe I got
Yeah.
married in the last hour.
Who knows? Miss, oh gosh, Miss Katie Allred. Katie, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I don't know, to be honest with you, because I've been running all day long. So
Right? So is your brain like fried?
I
Mine kind of is, to be honest with you.
this may not be the best time for me to podcast, but you know what? It's going to be awesome. I'm excited.
It's gonna be great. I'm still trying to figure out how to get our stuff shared over to the thing. So
To the group?
So
Yeah. Okay. Well, while you're doing that, I'll go ahead and read this week's sponsor.
go ahead and start the ad.
Yes, sure. This week's sponsor is National Discipleship Making Forum, brought to you by discipleship.org. Join 1,000 plus disciple makers in Nashville, Tennessee for this 2-day forum that will equip you as a disciple maker. Get 20% off with the promo code ChurchCom. Learn from disciple makers like Jim Putman, Tom Rayner, Trilla Newbell, Robert Coleman, Nate Larkin, Ariel Rimson, Daniel M., Dan Spader, Kenan Vaughn, Todd Wilson, and others. 13 tracks, 15 plus speakers, and 65 plus workshops. 13 organizations who are devoted to equipping you to make disciples, who will be offering you practical training so you can grow. Go to discipleship.org and use the promo code ChurchCom, or of course you can find the registration link in our podcast show notes as well.
Yes. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the show.
All righty. So we got some news stories this week.
Yeah, we got some news, and we also have a new segment. I know. Get excited. We're really
excited, people.
Up on you.
All right, let's jump on in. Katie, you want to hit up the first news story? You're the one.
Yeah, the first news story is so much for the 9 to 5. Americans are more burnout than ever, and here's how to fix it with The Hustle. If you're not a part on The Hustle's email list, you really should, because it's like the most fantastic newsletter I've ever done.
Very good. Very well done. Good.
Yeah, so basically, apparently 50% of Americans say they're consistently drained at work. Ooh. So, yeah, I don't know. You feel like you earlier said, oh, man, I just feel like I'm drained.
See, here's the question I would ask is, this is interesting. When they say consistently drained at work, I'm assuming they mean that in a negative connotation. Like, there's days when I end up and I'm done, like I'm burnt.
Right.
I'm not burnt in a bad way. I'm like, I gave it my all. It was a great day, but like, I'm just done.
Yeah.
Or are they talking like, I am like drained in I'm assuming it's a negative way when they use that.
It's saying that while most of us think of burnout as a symptom of being overworked, it can actually stem from a number of causes, one of which we will talk about later in the podcast. Yes. But, the 3 causes they have here is 1, overload. So feeling like they're constantly running after success at the expense of their health and personal relationships. Mm-hmm. And so they put their solution is to go on vacation, which is actually really good and like healthy. The thing is, like, we just don't do it, and I feel like that's the worst in America. Like, yes. I don't know, I feel like other cultures, they've been doing work for, thousands of years. So they're totally like, oh yeah, we're fine. We figured out this work-life balance. We give you 5 weeks of vacation.
Well, yeah, you're funny. It's funny you mentioned that. So like, I would say, gosh, it was a year and a half ago. I took my wife to Hawaii. Because we got a one of those things where, like, if you'll come to Hawaii, you'll pay like dirt cheap for the hotel because you'll only have to like a 2-hour timeshare, like 2-hour timeshare pitch. But the interesting thing wasn't the timeshare pitch in and of itself. It was actually during the pitch, he asked the question like, how much he was trying to show me, like, you take all this time of vacation, and you know what, you could be cheaper if you did timeshare. But when he did the calculations, he was like, we realize we don't use nearly all of our vacation time. Like, I'm super guilty of that. And we're kind of like, dude, we really don't take vacation. So I fall in that category of leaving days hanging at the end of the year.
Yeah, I am too. Like, since I've started at Brentwood, I've always had 5 extra vacation days. I only have 10 days. So that means I'm only taking 5 days every year. Now, of course, I'm doing conferences. I'll go to conferences, and I kind of feel like that's kind of a vacay or something.
Yeah.
And I'll do mission trips, so I kind of feel like that isn't it's a working vacay.
Yes.
It's not in the same place that I
it's not
every single day. But I think I could do better, and I'm actually really excited. I'm going on vacation starting next week, so I won't be on the podcast starting next week for 2 weeks. I'm actually going on vacation for like a full week and a half. So I'm sure the team's gonna love me for that. But I just, I'm going to homecoming down at my school, and I just really wanted to take some time off. And after this long season of doing that I've been in for the last month, it's been a lot for me personally. So I'm kind of like, it would be good just to like chill and not deal with things and just like, lounge around someone else's house that I don't have to clean at the end of the day. That's my plan.
I don't blame you.
I'm going to hang out with my friends in Mobile, so I'm really excited about just being with them and not.
That's awesome.
So
that is awesome.
The next thing on the list, and I'm going to go through these more quickly. So the next thing is people feel under challenged at work, so they feel underappreciated, bored, and lacking growth opportunities. I can relate to this, not at Brentwood necessarily. So I don't want to like say that, but in my previous job, especially, like I felt like I had outgrown it so quickly, and there was nowhere else for me to go. Like, even the IT director himself was very young, so like I don't know, there was no other opportunity but to leave.
Right.
And so, and so the solution they said is to find something to invest in at work or otherwise. So if you're stuck in the same old routine, take time to explore your interests and rekindle your curiosities. That's what they said.
Wow. Interesting.
And then the last one is neglect. This is the result of feeling helpless in one's own work. It's actually the most common form of burnout. Much like imposter syndrome, it can strike when we feel incompetent and unable to keep up with the roadblocks at work. And the solution is to make a list of tasks that you can delegate to take some responsibilities off your plate, and setting boundaries and saying no can make you feel like you're more in control of your workload, which is something that we constantly talk about at Brentwood.
Yes, we do.
I think that our leadership does a really good job of saying like, is that the best use of our time? Like that's like the constant like question. Like, and so we've almost gotten funny with it. Like, is this the best use of my time? And like the truth is like, is this the highest and best use?
Oh, yes.
That's like the correct phrase that we use.
Yes.
The highest and best use of my time. And a lot of times, no, it's not. Like, so, yesterday I found this great tool that will invite people so if you have a Facebook page post and it has a bunch of likes on it, you can invite those people to like your page through those likes that are on the post. Well, that takes time. I was spending probably like an hour a day doing that. And I know it sounds silly, but it got us like 1,000 likes this year. So it's really important to me because I was like, this is a great way to reach people, like to invite them to like our church's page and continue growing. So I was like, there's got to be a way. So I just like did a simple Google search, and before I knew it, I found a tool that could do it totally for me. And I was like, this is incredible. It was only $30. You got to be kidding me. To take that off my plate, worth it. So we bought the tool, and it's been great. I run it every morning now, and it does all my work for me, and it's fantastic. That's one less thing I have to worry about. And so yeah, sometimes the last thing their solution is to delegate it to someone. But really, like, you could delegate it to like a computer system if that's possible. Exactly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think one of the things I find is that when people who struggle with delegation, especially the church communications world, is there is a problem in terms of determining what's the thing that only you can do, that only you can bring to the table, and let's stick to you doing that thing.
Right.
The part of the problem is that by the nature of our work, we end up sometimes being the most technically competent people in our field. So we feel a little bit like nobody else can do what we do. We're a bit of a unicorn. We think of ourselves as a bit of a unicorn.
Right.
By doing so, we end up putting so much on ourselves that only what we think we can do, and we end up burning ourselves out in the long run.
Yep, I agree. So I think we covered that one good.
Cool.
So
all right.
Definitely go on. The New York Times.
Yes, the New York Times. my favorite newspaper. The New York Times is cracking down on journalists' Twitter feed. Last week, the New York Times executive editor Dean Banquet told a publication called Politico he was tired of policing his writer's social media accounts and wanted a stricter policy. The following, it's 160, by the way, New York Times is a 166-year-old paper, says it has got some new guidelines about how they can use their personal social media accounts. So their personal social media accounts. So basically what happened is and part of this is given the nature of politics as they currently stand. But if you think of it like this, we have a 166-year-old institution, probably one of the most well-known media institutions on the planet, has decided they're going to set a whole brand new social media policy around their journalists' social media accounts. And I think this is a kind of a big thing because I think we're entering into an age
because
where
how they handle this, I think, will affect a lot of other.
Yes. So interesting because one of the lead reporters says the reality is that that my Twitter account is a Times account. The Times doesn't control it, but the Times is held accountable for what appears in my feed. Indeed, the casual reader interprets my social media accounts as an extension of all of our digital platforms, for good and for bad. I think all of us at the New York Times need to embrace this is a price of our employment by a major media institution. And in fairness, to extent my Twitter account is influential and widely read, it is largely because I'm employed by the Times. So I think that it plays out for us specifically when we think through as we coach our staffs, as we coach ourselves, that whether you like it or not, and this is something you, Katie, you and I talk about all the time, is our people have this idea that there is a personal side of themselves and a professional side of themselves. And on social media, they want to be the personal side. They don't want to be the professional side. Yeah. And they don't understand that world, that fragmentation doesn't really exist.
You're definitely the same person online as you are in person. Sorry to break it to you. But the 21st century is here and you are one person, like you're a total person online and regardless, people are going to think that your opinions are that of your employer, regardless of if you put that disclaimer in your Twitter bio, I don't care. Like, it's still just like, it's like a cop out and saying I'll still be like a terrible person or something, or just because I work for a conservative or some, I don't know. It's like saying some like weird, I don't know. It's like saying that I feel like it's disrespectful to your employer, to be really honest.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's funny you mentioned that. I'll take Twitter. Twitter is where I see this the most because I don't pay attention to the normal Facebook news feed like most people do. I'm shocked by the number of people who have pastor in their title who say things online in which I'm kind of going, you're not representing you, you're representing your church.
Yeah.
And
you know, and we've talked about this a lot too. There are some conversations that can happen online and some that cannot.
Yes.
I think that obviously any conversation, of course, can start online. But there's some things that people won't say to your face that they'll say online about you. And that's okay. I think that has some validity to it.
Yeah.
Because that's a good thing. Like there are some spaces that people feel super safe doing that. And that's good. I don't want to lose that. I just think that too, we can abuse it and then we get to trolls, and that's definitely not the path we want to go down. So
we don't want trolls. No, we don't. All right. Story number 3. Katie, I'll do story number 3. That way you can jump into the practical advice section. That work for you?
Advice. Cool. Yes.
Awesome. Story number 3. Facebook Live cuts out the middleman, adds its own screen sharing feature. So big news, folks. If you're using Facebook Live, you now can do screen sharing on the desktop. So basically what it is previously you had to use like OBS, Open Broadcast Software, to share your screen on Facebook Live. Now it's kind of the middleman, allowing you to share your screen directly from the live interface.
Yep.
And we think like this is like a small thing, but the reality of it is it made me think of this. I think Facebook's starting to do this, which is fine by me, but it's what Apple used to do. And Apple still does to a certain degree. They do specifically do more on the phone, but they used to do this on the desktop all the time.
Yeah.
Which is these independent creators would create these pieces of software that were really great, and Apple would steal the features and then integrate it into their desktop. And the example would be they used to have this there used to be this piece of software called Sherlock, and what Sherlock would do on the Mac is you could look up movie times, weather, and all this stuff before like all the internet kind of really existed. You could do all these things. And then so Apple came out with a version called Watson, and it was installed on your Mac when you came out. And so in the tech world, they say you got Sherlocked, which basically means you create a piece of software and a company come in and swung in and replicate the same feature. I think Facebook's going to start doing that. And I think screen sharing is just one little thing when they're going to start noticing features that third parties have created, like what you and I are doing right now. Right. I would not be surprised if that all of a sudden becomes
completely to Facebook.
It becomes a native Facebook experience.
Yeah, so I totally agree. It's definitely going to happen.
Yeah. And so I think the question for us is and by the way, I think that's, as much as I like it when third parties innovate, they do stuff that's challenging. I think having Facebook integrated is going to be better in terms of analytics. You go down the line, it's going to be a huge wins on a lot of things. I see that happening more and more with Facebook. I mean, we already know that they're not afraid with Instagram to go steal Snapchat's features, but I think they're going to start stealing some third party features as well.
Right. Yep. I agree. So our next segment is our new segment, which is funny because I feel like I just gave practical advice, but our next segment is called Practical Advice. So, today I was reading, I found this awesome website. It's actually QZ, but they have a work part of QZ now. So it just has a bunch of like work things around work or whatever. So one of the articles was how to stay positive with negative people at work. So all of us deal with negative people at work, the people who are just like not happy, which is totally fine. People got to do what they got to do. It says Gallup's State of the Global Workplace study suggests that only 13% of employees worldwide feel actively engaged by their work. So 13%.
Wow.
Only 13% of people feel like they're really gung-ho at work. Most of the rest feel apathetic, but a significant number, 24%, said that they feel actively disengaged. And it says that this may include your boss, by the way, since the numbers actually look just as bad for the category that Gallup calls professional workers or managers and executives. So 24% of managers and executives feel actively disengaged by their work. So,
and here's what I would argue. I think one of the reasons why that's the case, I know we'll kind of talk through some of this stuff. I think one of the reasons why this is the case for a lot of people is that their internal goals and objectives in life do not line up with the place that they work. And I see this more and more in the church world than I do other environments where you have this personal mission and calling that that Christ has placed in your life. And when the current church environment doesn't line up with that, you end up just going against the stream and you fight and you get fatigued, you get burned out, and you then become disengaged.
Yeah, I completely agree. So it says psychologists have found that merely being near someone in a good mood can be good enough to lift a person's motivation within 5 minutes, while being near someone grumpy can do quite the opposite. So if it seems hard to imagine simply radiating joy at your colleagues, you can try at random acts of kindness.
Okay, so this is, by the way, this is they call this a job tip, if you will, in terms of practical advice.
Sure.
I got this from one of my mentors, and it's always stuck with me. You always want to be the best part of your boss's day.
Yeah.
You want your boss to be like, whenever that person walks in my room, it's rainbows and sunshines, and I love working with them. Yeah. You want to do that for two reasons. One, your boss is going to love you, and you're going to be, by being positive, they'll more likely be positive back to you. The second thing is that we have found, or at least I have found, and when situations come down to where they have to let people go, and I hope you're never in that situation, you will find very rarely do they let people go who they like.
Right. Yeah.
They'll let people go that they're not really fond of. Exactly. So it's really good job security, but being positive and being surrounded by those people, and being known for that people, or the person, being known for that person in your workplace, that's
just being like the generally like upbeat encourager, like positive person. So they recommend doing this. So they recommend like doing random acts of kindness. So you could pay an unexpected compliment or pick up a drink or something for a colleague. That's what they said. So Starbucks, I guess the drink or juice.
Pick up at Starbucks for somebody. Yes.
Right. Yeah. So doing an act of kindness produces the single most reliable momentary increase in well-being of any exercise that they tested. So in a study conducted at Coca-Cola, employees who had benefited with some kind of unexpectedly nice behavior were then, or who had benefited from some unexpectedly nice behavior, were then 3 times more likely to do something nice for someone else.
Yep.
So most bad behavior actually in the workplace isn't the result of someone being like a terrible person. It's actually more they're on the defense. That's like what I found, like, for the most part. If someone is being like terrible to me, I'm like, who got around to them? You know, some, like, because naturally most people like are fine. You know, like they don't want to like be terrible people and annoy you. Like they actually really enjoy being nice and cordial to each other. So if someone's getting up, you know, going annoying you, it's probably because they're being annoyed by someone else.
That's a great point. That's a really good point. I think oftentimes when I run into people who are that way, I have to remind myself that it's really not about me. It's about something else or somebody else. And because often what happens is I always tell my wife, I said, you write a script in your mind where somehow you are the issue in that script. And you have to reframe it to kind of go, you have to remove yourself out of the script and say, they may be that way for a whole host of reasons. And it may have nothing to do with
about you at all.
No, you're exactly right. Yep.
And there's some questions that they asked at the end, like what you can ask yourself whenever you're like around a negative person. What's the human fear that's being triggered here? Are they concerned about not looking competent or not being in control? And are they worried about not being relevant or respected? And I think that happens a lot, especially with the more you are facing upward senior leadership. You know, it is, you know, are they hearing, not just are they hearing you well, but are you hearing them well, especially as well? You know, we talk a lot about like, how can we get senior leadership to agree to communication ideas, new ideas, and that kind of stuff. And sometimes, you know, they may not hear it the first time because maybe it's just the wrong day to approach them about that.
No, you're right. You're exactly right. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
All right. You want to move on to the
We're moving on to hot topic.
Yes, that's right, folks. Okay, here's our hot topic of the week that was in the group. And it's a question, I would say hot topic only in the sense that like we seem to get this a lot more in the last, I would say 2 or 3 weeks than we have in the past. But it's a topic that I think, gosh, always appears every year. And it is, when is the best time for you to post content for your church on social media? When is there a golden hour that is it prime time from 8 to 9 p.m.? You know, whatever it is, you know, photographers have the golden hour in the morning, in the evening, like that's the best time to take photos. Is there a best time to post to social media? And Katie, you wrote a blog post on this, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, actually, I wrote a blog post on email, but you know, both of them are similar. Okay. So the thing is, like, there is not any time is the right time. But also testing. Any time that you've tested and worked is the right time, honestly. Anything with data, that's the right thing to do. You know, a lot of times people are like, oh, I want a new page on the website. I'm like, well, we have data that says that's not going to work, so we can't do it. Or, you know, saying like, okay, we're going to send our emails on Tuesday at 10 a.m., because we've tested that Tuesday at 2 a.m. works. So there's a great article by CoSchedule, and I referenced it in the thing about email. For social media, for us personally, like nighttime works the best and early morning. Sometimes also just straight up midday works really well too. Honestly, I found the rhythm of rhyme hour sometimes. I'm like,
I will tell you
this at 9 a.m. and it worked.
The only time when I will tell you I have found like it's a dead zone is in the fall on Saturday during a University of Tennessee, University of Alabama, or Auburn football game for us. It's like
that makes perfect sense.
That's the no-fly zone. Like, don't go near it.
That.
What's that?
So because people aren't looking to social media for the church's stuff, you know, like they're not. So
I call that the no-fly zone. Like, don't even go near it. It's not even worth your time. But I think by the way, it's a good question to ask. I think the problem is, in some ways, I want to say it's the wrong question to ask a lot of the times, because I think it's better to first do, then evaluate. So I think I would be more like, I would be more on the line of, how do I produce more content? How do I produce stuff for Christmas? How do I produce better content across my channels? I'd focus on that versus the win, because when you're going to post that content, that'll come down the line after you have a few hits and you start.
Yeah.
That'll build over time.
If it doesn't work the first time you post it again. Like, yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think a lot of people are like, well, we get that a lot in a group. Like, I'll say, you should always like ask people what are they thankful for, because that generates tons and tons of engagement. Like, lots and lots of people love to comment on that kind of thing. Yeah. They love to tag people in it. So, like, who are you most thankful for? And then they tag all their friends, and then your post goes to a lot of people. Right. Well, I'll get somebody in the group that says, that didn't work for me. And, I posted it once and it didn't work. And I'm like, yeah, you posted it once. What did you do? You posted it once. And also, maybe that question, the way you phrased it, didn't work, but that doesn't mean that the idea doesn't work. It just means it didn't work for that particular time, that particular moment. And if you have 200 likes, like, you're going to have to fight for it.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a great point, though. What we're saying is there's multiple variables into when you post. There's not just the time you post, but what exactly you're posting, the format you're posting, the graphic, the way it's worded. There are 1,000 variables. That's why I argue it's better to do than to fret over all those variables and just understand.
Yeah, just do it. Like, don't worry about when's the best time. How am I going to get the most reach?
Well, I think
post like.
Well, I think,
I'm not a drop in the ocean.
Exactly. And I'm not saying you are experts in any way, shape, or form on this, but I will tell you this. You and I have done it so much that when it comes to doing it, it comes to second nature. We just kind of do it. We just kind of go here, do this, and go.
On Wednesday nights at 8 because our data tells us that the most people are in our group on Wednesday nights at 8.
which kind of surprises me, because I think most of us had like Wednesday night activities at church, but that shows me.
Yeah, like, are you all just coming home and chilling with us? I mean, that's great. I'm totally pro that, but it's Monday nights. Monday nights, man. Y'all are hanging out. Forget Monday night football. It's Monday night church communications.
Exactly. So Monday night, Wednesday night, we have found are the best times to hang out with this group. So there you go. Who would have thought? Yeah.
So, do we have anything else?
I think I do have a shout out.
Great.
I want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out to all of our mods for as the group has grown. The mods have done a great job of hanging in there. Like, when I look at the volume of, like, I open up for those of you who don't know, like, we talked about Monday night, Wednesday night. I'm on the group from the hours of 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. because that's when I'm feeding my child. And I'm usually like, that's when I'm on the group the most. And just seeing the volume of stuff coming in, I want to thank them. I also want to thank everybody. We're almost at 13,000 members. And so that's awesome. And so I want to just thank everybody for doing that. So I want to give a shout out to our mods, because you guys have been fantastic. Yeah.
Thanks so much for helping us out and caring about churches and as much as we do. So y'all are awesome.
All right. If you enjoyed this podcast, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could do us a couple of things. One, subscribe on iTunes if you're listening to the audio version. If you're watching this on Facebook, if you could like it or share it, and if on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We'd appreciate that as well. Until next time, I'm Daryl. That's Katie, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.